Welcome to Wisdom Unveiled. In this deep dive, we're exploring the profound insights of the brilliant Khajeh Nasir al-Tusi. This is episode 10 of our 12-part series, drawing from conversations with Iranian philosophers.
And just a quick reminder for everyone listening, this discussion is based on translated conversation, so, some details or nuances might not come across perfectly. We do apologize for any potential discrepancies there.
Absolutely. So today, we're really diving into Tusi's understanding of wisdom, or hikmat. We want to sort of unpack his distinction between theoretical and practical wisdom. This comes from the 223 4 Esfand 1391.mp3 source material. And it seems this whole division really hinges on understanding things as they are on one hand and acting as one should on the other.
That's the core of it, yes.
Okay, so let's start right there. What did hikmat really mean for Tusi? How did he define it?
Well, in his famous work, Khayr Kathir, he gives this really beautiful definition. He says, wisdom is knowing things as they are and performing actions as they should be, to the extent of one's capacity, until the human soul reaches the perfection it is directed towards. It's quite comprehensive.
Wow, yeah. Knowing and doing, aiming for perfection. And it has deep roots, right, in the Qur'an.
Oh, absolutely. The term hikmat itself is significant. The Qur'an refers to it as Khayr Kathir, abundant good in Surah al-Baqarah. So it's not just knowledge, it's a beneficial, fruitful kind of knowledge.
Abundant good. I like that. It suggests something more than just, facts. Is there a sense of stability or firmness to it too?
Definitely. The conversations we're looking at really emphasize that. Hikmat is linked to hukam, judgment, and ikam, which means firmness or being impervious to flaws.
Okay.
There's that Quranic verse, akamet ayat thumma fusilat, suggesting things made firm, established, then detailed. So hikmat isn't flimsy. It's solid, reliable understanding.
Solid and reliable. That sounds quite different from how we sometimes use the word philosophy. How do they compare?
That's a great question. And the source material actually draws a distinction. Philosophy, from the Greek philosophia, is literally love of wisdom, philos, lover, and Sophia, wisdom.
Right, the love of it.
Yeah, which implies a seeking, a striving, maybe not always arriving. Hikmat, however, seems to imply a more inherent possession of that firm, unflawed understanding. It's less about the search and more about the quality of the insight itself.
Interesting. So philosophy is the path, maybe, and hikmat is closer to the destination, or at least a state of genuine understanding.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. While philosophy can sometimes, go off track, hikmat is seen as retaining that core of true, sound intellect.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's get into Tusi's big distinction then. Theoretical wisdom, Hikmah Nazari, versus practical wisdom, Hikmah Amali. Starting with theoretical, knowing things as they are, Anshalan ke Bashand. What's that really about?
It's fundamentally about getting past the surface.
Yeah.
Trying to grasp the underlying reality of things. The source connects it to that prophetic prayer. Allahum arini alashya kama hiya. Oh Allah, show me things as they truly are.
Seeing things as they are, not just as they seem.
Exactly. It contrasts how things appear namayad with how they fundamentally exist, has stand. This touches on concepts like, noumenon and phenomenon, maybe like Kant talked about.
Okay.
Or in Islamic philosophy, the key terms are bud, the being or essence, and namud, the appearance or manifestation.
Bud and namud, essence and appearance. Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about, well, the classic example is maybe a gold coin that's covered in mud. It's namud. Its appearance is just a dirty lump.
Right.
But its bud, its essence, its reality is still gold. So something can be bud related to what they call makmi subud, the level of reality, without necessarily being obvious to us. None of the makami is, but the level of proof or perception for us.
So our perception can be mistaken.
Easily. And the Sufis even take this further, suggesting our own existence is a kind of hasty numaye, an appearance of being, while true being belongs only to God. So theoretical wisdom tries to cut through the namad to get to the bud.
Penetrating the appearance to reach the essence.
Yeah.
That's a powerful idea. Okay, what about the other side? Practical wisdom. Hikmah Amali. Acting as one should.
Right. On konen ke Bayad. This brings in the concepts of Bayad should and nabayad should not.
The realm of ethics, morality.
Exactly. And the big question is, where does this should come from? What's its origin?
Yeah, where does it come from? Is it just convention or something deeper?
Well, the argument presented in these discussions is that Bayad and nabayad are fundamentally rooted in the intellect, the akal.
In our reason.
Yes. If you have intellect, you inherently have the capacity to understand what's appropriate or inappropriate to do. But what's really interesting is that this bayad, this should, isn't described as some kind of pre-existing thing just waiting to be discovered. It's something the intellect actually brings into being. It's an act of insha creation or origination. The intellect creates the should, which then guides action.
So the intellect isn't just finding a rule, it's making the directive.
In a sense, yes. Think about helping someone. The should help isn't a physical reality until the intellect forms that judgment and motivates the action. The action hasn't happened yet.
Right. It applies to potential actions.
Exactly. The source even makes a quick comparison to the divine command, kun fayakun be, and it is. In the divine realm, the should, kun, immediately results in is fayakun.
Instantaneous.
For us, though, the bayad guides actions that aren't yet real. Actions aimed at changing the current reality, the bashad. We use the should to decide whether to add something to reality or take something away, so to speak.
Okay, so theoretical wisdom is about understanding what is bashad, and practical wisdom is about determining and enacting what ought to be bayad, driven by the intellect. That's a very neat division.
It is. And Tusi then breaks down theoretical wisdom further.
Right. The source mentions subdivisions. What are they?
He identifies three main branches. Theology, which is ilahiyat, physics, tabi'iyyat, and mathematics, riyaziyat.
Okay, physics, tabi'iyyat, that sounds pretty straightforward. Study of nature.
Pretty much. Understanding things according to their nature in the physical world, water, earth, plants, animals, physical processes, what we call natural sciences today.
Got it. And mathematics, riyaziyat, numbers, shapes?
Exactly. Understanding measure and quantity. This includes both continuous quantity geometry, dealing with shapes and space, and discrete quantity arithmetic, numbers, calculation, hisab. The point is, everything in the physical world has some kind of measure.
Hard to imagine something physical without size or number.
Right. And this leads to how physics and maths are related. Modern science often sees maths as the language of physics.
Yeah, you need maths to do physics.
Absolutely. The analogy used is taking someone's temperature. The fever is a physical state, tabi'iyyat, but you understand it through a number, a measure, riyaziyat. But they're still distinct. Nature has measure, but it isn't just measure.
Ah, okay. The thing itself is separate from its measurement.
Yes. The source even points to a Quranic verse about everything being sent down by Qadr in measure, implying the thing, Shia, and its measure are related but distinct.
That's a subtle but important point. So physics deals with nature, maths deals with measure. What about the third branch, theology, ilahiyat?
Theology in this context deals with beings or realities that aren't necessarily defined by physical nature or by quantifiable measure.
Like what?
The prime example given is the intellect itself. It clearly exists. We use it, but does it have a temperature, a weight? Is it triangular?
No, of course not.
Right. It understands mathematical concepts, it understands physical laws, but it isn't itself defined by those categories. The argument goes, if the intellect had a specific shape, say it was inherently square, how could it possibly understand a circle? It would be limited by its own form.
I see. So it has to be formless in a way.
Or at least not defined by physical or mathematical forms. This points to the realm of mujaradat, immaterial beings or realities.
So theology studies things that exist but are beyond the physical and the quantifiable.
Precisely. The existence of something like the intellect, which operates outside those constraints, suggests there must be a realm of reality beyond just physics and mathematics. This connects back to that idea of al-Wujud, the primacy of existence.
Yeah, so.
Things are physical, things have measure because they exist. Existence, wujud, comes first, is the fundamental ground. And God, Haq Ta'ala, is conceived as pure existence, hastimats. So theology studies existence itself, especially beings whose reality isn't captured by physical properties or mathematical description.
That's fascinating. It feels like today, maybe, there's much more focus generally on the physics and maths side of things.
That's certainly a fair observation about our current era. But the source emphasizes that for thinkers like Tusi or Ibn Sina before him, theology wasn't just one branch among equals. It was often seen as the highest, the ultimate science, dealing with the most fundamental realities.
But Tusi wasn't only about theology, was he? He was known for other things, too.
Oh, absolutely not. And that's crucial. While Tusi's deepest work might be in theology and philosophy, he was a master of the other branches, too. He was a brilliant mathematician, a leading astronomer.
Kharga Observatory.
Exactly. He designed and ran it. His astronomical tables, the Ziji-il-Khani, were hugely influential. He was deeply involved in Tabi'iyyat and Riyaziyat. He had this amazing ability to bring balanced mise-en to everything.
Balance across all fields of knowledge.
Yes, and even in the practical realm. He was involved in ethics, politics, advising rulers, even navigating the incredibly difficult period of the Mongol invasions. He applied his wisdom practically.
A true polymath, bridging theory and practice. And just briefly before we wrap up, the source mentioned he also divided practical wisdom.
Yes, following the same pattern. Practical wisdom, Hikmah Amali, acting as one should. He divided it into ethics, tazibi akhlaq, concerning the individual, domestic economy, tadgir manzil, the household, and politics, siyasat madani, the city or state.
Individual, family, society. Makes sense.
Yeah, but as the source notes, exploring those divisions properly, that's really a topic for another time.
Definitely. Well, this framework Tusi lays out, this distinction between knowing things as they are and acting as one should, it's incredibly profound, really beautiful in its structure.
It really is.
It makes you think, doesn't it? About our own time. We have so many resources, so much Bashand. The existing reality is so complex and technologically at least advanced. But maybe we sometimes lack the Bayad, the clear understanding of how we should organize it all, how we should act.
That's a powerful thought. The source material kind of hints at that too. Maybe focusing on our own inner being, our bud, is just as crucial, if not more so, than just managing the external bashad.
Food for thought, indeed. The wisdom of these thinkers is such a valuable heritage.
Truly invaluable.
Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration into the thought of Khajeh Nasir al-Din Tusi. We hope you found it insightful. Until our next deep dive, Khoda Hafez.